Welcome back to another video from Transmission 1. Today we're taking a look at a radio called the Baofeng UV-21R. This is a 6-watt tri-band handheld from Baofeng in China. I must say thank you very much to baofengradio.com for supplying the test unit and allowing me to give my honest opinions about the radio. As you all know, Baofeng is a very well known brand name in the world of affordable entry-level radios, and just about everyone I know has bought one of their radios at some point in the past 10 years. I'm hoping that this UV-21R carries on the tradition of providing good performance at a super cheap price. Speaking of pricing, this radio comes in at just $24 plus shipping direct from their website. That seems like a great value package for what you're getting here, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. Let's start with the specifications. Here we have 3 radio bands, and these include 136 to 174 MHz, 220 to 260 MHz, and 400 to 480 MHz. So basically the radio is ideal for use in the amateur radio bands on 2 meters, 70 sems, and if you're in the United States you can also use the 1.25 meter band in the 200 MHz range. The quoted power output on the radio is around 6 watts, we'll give that a test shortly. The radio can also receive in the AM mode for listening to the VHF airband. I'm hoping this works better than some of my previous attempts with Chinese radios, but we'll see. Memory storage shouldn't be an issue on this device as 999 memories are provided, and that's a lot better than other similar radios in the price range such as the Quansheng UV-K5, which is an excellent radio but only has 200 memory channels, and these can be filled up easily when storing amateur radio repeaters, marine and PMR channels etc. This radio is a pretty good looking unit. It's quite chunky, seems well built and has a rugged appearance. There is no mention of any IP rating for water resistance, but it looks like it could withstand use in the rain as there's a rubberized port covering the battery charging connector, and also the battery pack has a screw-on design to make sure it is attached to the radio making good contact and presumably some kind of weatherproofing. One of the things I did notice about the radio is the fact that you can't see the front facing speaker as this is located behind the illuminated keypad. Speaking of design, this radio has a single volume control on top of the unit which acts as the on-off switch. This is not a rotary VFO knob, so you have to move through the channels or frequencies using the keypad rocker switch, and this is similar to other radios of this type. I really like the design of the unit. It feels good in the hand, and the PTT button seems to be located in just the right place. Below the PTT is a series of 3 programmable keys that can be assigned to a number of different functions. On the right hand side there is a flap for the compulsory K-type jack, so the radio can be programmed using a standard Baofeng type programming cable. On the rear of the unit, located directly on the battery pack, we also have the USB-C connector for charging. This is just one way to charge the radio, as you can also use the included desktop charger base, but USB-C makes everything so much more convenient, as you could just use a mobile phone charger, like the one I've got here, or maybe a power bank. It's certainly convenient when it comes to using the radio away from home or on a holiday. The battery pack has an LED indicator that changes from red to green when the charging process is completed. I've not measured it exactly, but mine seemed to take around 2 to 3 hours to charge fully from empty. The battery pack is 2000 mAh and should last quite a long time in normal use. Let's take a look at what you get in the box. Here you can find 2 antennas, one extra long range 15-inch dual bander and another standard antenna which is much shorter. The 15-inch one promises a much greater range and higher gain, but it's nice that you get both in the box for different operating ranges. We get the compulsory belt clip, a USB charge cable, a wrist strap, a wired headset for hands-free operation and a desktop charger. With this you just sit the radio into the cradle and it plugs directly into the main supply. The unit I was sent came with a 2-pin EU power connector, so if you're in the UK you'll need an adapter plug to make this work correctly. Personally I don't really bother with the desktop charger as I find the USB-C much more convenient to charge directly with the battery pack. Also in the box you'll find a well-written user guide. This is quite comprehensive and in good English. It takes you through the functions of the menu and getting started entering frequencies, but how many of us actually read the user guide from cover to cover? One thing I've not talked about yet is the full colour display on the radio. This is a 1.7-inch LCD display with 2 lines of VFO information. The display is quite informative and well laid out. It can display frequency and memory information, plus with the help of programming software you can also give names to all your stored channels. Whilst this looks good indoors, the same cannot be said for outdoor operation. In only modest daylight I was struggling to see the colour display, and this is probably the biggest weakness of the radio. If only the display was a little bit brighter it'd make all the difference outdoors, but sadly that's not the case, so you'll have to move somewhere darker to change settings. At this time of year we're moving into the darker nights as winter approaches, so not as much of a problem as in the summertime, at least for us here in the sunny UK. Oh, and that's a joke by the way. The radio has two VFOs. You can configure these to work with channels or memories and can easily toggle between top and bottom VFO using the AB button. Dual watch is also provided so that activity can be monitored and split between the two. I usually turn this feature off as it can be a little bit confusing when the radio switches to the other VFO when I'm talking to a station on the top one, for example. Although the radio can monitor two VFOs at once, it only contains one receiver that switches between the top and bottom rows when receiving in standby. Looking through the menu system on this radio is pretty much standard stuff, so no need to explain everything in detail because it's very similar to previous Chinese radios such as the UV-13 Pro that I reviewed some time ago. Basically, you can modify all the usual parameters including squelch, frequency step, CTCSS, DCS tones, an analog voice scrambler, Vox, voice prompts, repeater offsets, and rather strangely a stopwatch function, which seems to be an added bonus in the firmware. One thing I've found disappointing with all these type of radios is the lack of memory management. Here we have almost 1,000 memory channels and no way of defining a group, bank or zone of frequencies, so it makes it very difficult to organise. I'd like to see some kind of feature added in the firmware that could allow memories to be divided up, even if it was only by band, a bit like Yaesu do with some of their radios. So far, not many Chinese radios allow this to be done. I did a review on a radio called the AnyTalk UV6F some time ago, and that allowed the memories to be divided into blocks of 100 channels, and that actually works really well. In addition to the usual features, the UV-21R has an FM radio so you can listen to broadcast stations in between monitoring for calls on another frequency. If you're listening to music and a call comes in on the radio, it will automatically switch back to the channel as a priority, for example the 2-meter band calling frequency. Another feature tucked away inside the centre programmable key on the side of the radio is something Baofeng called wireless frequency copy. When this is enabled, it allows you to capture the frequency of another radio transmitting nearby. This is useful if you're trying to program two radios to operate on the same frequency and you're not sure what frequency the other radio is operating on. It's a bit like Unident's close call feature on scanners that can capture and display the frequency of another nearby radio transmission. You do have to be quite close to the radio for this to happen, and you do need to select the band range you're looking at capturing, for example VHF or UHF. This can be toggled by the AB button on the front panel. Not only does this show the frequency, but it also displays the CTCSS and DCS tone. It's a nice bonus feature to have built into a low-cost radio. I almost forgot to mention the compulsory LED torch built into the radio, which is triggered by pushing the middle programmable key. Some people do have a use for this if you do a lot of night walking with the dog like I do. It's fairly bright and can be helpful if you've forgotten to bring your flashlight with you. So let's take a look at how to program the radio. You can do the basics direct from the keypad, but when possible, I always try and program these type of radios using a PC. One great feature that Baofeng have allowed is the ability to program the radio directly with the popular Chirp radio programming software. For this, you'll need a stock K-type programming cable, such as the one used with the popular Baofeng UV-K5. When launching Chirp, you'll need to select the radio model as the UV-17 Pro, as the 21 is not in the list. This will work perfectly for reading and writing data, which suggests there is only cosmetic difference between the two models of radio, which is very interesting. For testing purposes, I use a data file I already created on my Quansheng radio, and that's the beauty of using Chirp. You don't have to keep retyping data files into the software, as you can cut and paste between different models, and most settings will be brought across if the radio supports the same frequency range. The only issue I had was with the Airband frequencies, and these were rejected by Chirp when trying to paste these into my UV-17 file, as it says these were out of the frequency range. Hopefully this can be sorted with some software update on the Chirp side of things. I've not fully investigated this yet, but programming is easy enough doing it this way, and within a few minutes I had a working data file ready to write back to my UV-21R. Of course, if you don't want to use the Chirp software, you can download the official Baofeng software direct from the website, and this will allow you to adjust any parameters you like, including the programmable side keys. All considered, this radio is easy to program from PC and will save a lot of time compared to entering frequencies by hand. You do need to use the PC programming software to access the more advanced features, such as naming channels, etc., so it's worth getting it sorted out. Okay, without further ado, let's check out the power levels and see how it stacks up against a claim of 6 watts on high power. Now you've seen the power test, let's talk about audio quality. The radio does have very good audio on receive and transmit. Despite the built-in speaker being hidden away behind the keypad, the sound is loud and clear and better than some more expensive big brand amateur radio gear. The following clips you're about to see were recorded from actual on-air testing with some local radio amateurs across town, followed by some received audio from a local hubnet node linked via the internet. I was really impressed with the overall receive quality, as you'll see from these tests. Right, okay then, M0DPH, how do you copy on this Baofeng UV-21? Back to you.
Yeah, well, you're an absolutely end-stopping signal. Lovely, crisp and clear audio, and I can't fault it, to be fair.
Yeah, nice one, Paul. Yeah, it's good sounding audio on this radio, to be honest with you, on the receive as well. Like I was saying to you earlier today, the speaker is behind the keypad on it, so you don't actually see the speaker, but yeah, the sound still comes through the keypad, which is really amazing, and it's actually got quite a good tone quality to it. In fact, I'd go as far as saying it's better than some of the big name radios, Paul.
Yeah, well, I can't fault the audio. It's crisp and clear. And it's certainly loud enough, which is, rarity with some of these handhelds.
Yeah, definitely, yeah. Well, like I say, the audio is great on the 2 metre band and the 70sems. The only thing I don't like it on is Airband. It's got the Airband reception, but it does sound kind of distorted, a lot like those other Chinese radios do. You know, like before you get the custom firmware on the Quansheng, you get that kind of distorted audio on the AM on the Quansheng, but as soon as you put the custom firmware on, it all goes away and it sounds crystal clear. So I wonder if they're going to release a new firmware update for this radio that could also fix the same issue.
Well, it's highly likely, because they like to release these fancy bits of firmware and whatnot to open up the radios and give you a few more functions.
Yeah, definitely, Paul. Yeah. Well, like I say, it's one of those things. It's got potential, and the only other negative comment I can make about it is the display. It's very difficult to see in the daylight when you've got full sunshine on the display. It's almost impossible to read it. So if it was a little bit brighter or had some kind of anti-reflective coating on it or something, it'd make all the difference. But hopefully you're not getting too much wind noise down here, but it's getting quite windy down here on the seafront today. I must be mad coming out at this time of night to do a review, but this is what we do for the channel and everything. Try and get things tested as best as possible under these trying conditions, as they say. It's one of those things, but at least we know it works properly, so that's the main thing.
Yeah, it's certainly working well. There's barely any noise from the surrounding wind at all. It's certainly not picking that up, so you're fairly well sheltered in where you're sat. So, and at least you've got something to sit on instead of standing up, jumping up and down trying to get a better signal.
Yeah, surprisingly, it seems better than this morning when we were testing at the top of Pinfold Lane, which is a surprise. But so that's great. Anyway, Paul, like I say, I must be about 3 or 4 miles from you, maybe. Well, maybe about 3 miles in a straight line, something like that. I don't know, but I'll just take it back to Steve then for a second, if that's okay with you, Paul, and see how he's getting me. So, Steve, G0SGR, G7UFS, how are you receiving?
Yeah, G7UFS. G0SGR and the group, yeah, spot on, Sam. I can't fault it, to be honest. No noise, crystal clear. I wouldn't know you sat in a bus, like a bus bandstand, isn't it really? A bandstand with no windows and it's chucking down with rain, blowing a gale. So if you'd have said you were sat at home, I'd have said, yeah, you are sat in your front room or something. But yeah, it sounds clear, nice audio, not rough or anything. It's nice, just it is you can tell it's you. So yeah, no problems whatsoever, and you're full scale to me. So you're probably about, I don't know, 2 miles, is it, something like that maybe to you from me, but you're full scale on this one. So it sounds okay. And apart from you saying about the bad not being able to see the display during the brightness, that sounds like that's the only downside to it. And well, obviously the AM bit, which I don't think it's a major thing, is it? If it's not a bit squawkly on the AM side. So back to you, G7UFS, G0SGR in the group.
Your call, because I'm arriving at my destination in 2 minutes, and I've got to battle through a traffic light system, which is by the Bramford Arms Club, and it's an absolute nightmare. So I'll catch you again. Nice to hear you. We'll pick it up another time. No problem.
okay, Matt. You was scratchy towards the end, but I got the gist of it. Anyway, I'll let you traffic lights and stuff, if you can hear me. Say 7-3s. Yeah, we catch up sometime. I'm always monitoring on there. And I'm just using a micronode in the car. So I'm just coming straight into a hub net via 4G. So that's what I'm actually using at the moment there. Anyway, 7-3s. Nice to talk to you. And hopefully you'll battle through for the traffic lights. Catch you soon there, Matt. Bye for now from G7LZ.
Yep, no problem. All received. Just before you do go, can you just let me know what micro system you're using? Because I've been testing to get one myself. If you could just let me know what sort it is, please. Over.
Yeah, the one I've actually got was made by someone, and it's like a Sherry micro. It's a top hat that sits on a Raspberry Pi 3, and it's in a case, and it's got a little antenna on the top of it. There's a lot of them out there, and apparently the top hat is like a Sherry device. So it's one of those type, but it works very well, and I'm well impressed with it. And I generally take it mobile with me all the time, and I'll just set it up for today because I'm sort of out and about. Back to you there, Matt.
Yeah, okay, Recieve, no problem. Thanks for the info. I've got to go. 7-3, I'll pick it up again. Cheers for now. 2-0 Whiskey Lima Yankee, over.
Okay, let's talk about something I didn't like, and again this is something common with a lot of these low-cost radios, and that is of course the AM airband reception. Just in the same way the Quansheng with standard firmware sounded dreadful on the AM mode, this radio is no exception. Airband traffic sounded muffled and hard to understand. It did vary depending on signal strength, but most of the time it was pretty much unreadable. Have a listen to these short clips. Again, we're seeing the same problems, and I suspect this radio uses the same demodulation chip as the Quansheng UV-K5 and similar radios. It can be made better through firmware updates, but it's about time these issues were addressed, or maybe not bother adding AM reception at all if it can't be done in the right way. That's just my opinion on this. So, conclusions. In conclusion, I'd say overall the UV-21R is a great buy for around the $24 price point. It offers decent audio and build quality that is above average for the money, and the package offered by Baofeng contains everything you need to get started on the air at a great price. The inclusion of the 2 antennas and a desktop charger is a real bonus. The only improvement I would suggest is a brighter LCD screen so we can see outdoors. After all, it's a handheld radio designed to be taken outside. I must thank the guys at baofengradio.com for sending over this review model to me, and also letting me have my honest opinions on the unit. If you've enjoyed the video, please like and consider subscribing, and if you want to purchase your own unit, check out the description below, and if you use my affiliate link, you'll save a little bit of money in your shopping cart, and it also helps support work on this YouTube channel so I can bring you more content. Until next time, 73s, and bye for now.